In this video, I am going to explain the two-stage absorption method of product costing. I will use an example, a worked example, in order to demonstrate how it is done. But before that, it is helpful if we go through the steps which we are going to use in order to do the calculations. So what happens in this method is that you have got different departments. So you don't think that your factory or manufacturing place is just one unit. Rather, you think about various departments which are operating in that factory. So there are, like in this example, 3 different departments. So one is manufacturing, other is assembly, and third is coating. So all these 3 are production revenue generating departments. While there are other 2 departments like store and maintenance, which are essentially service departments helping these 3 produce the product. So they are lending their support. So now what we want to allocate all costs to the products, and we know that products are being manufactured here, not here. So our cost allocation has to go through 2 stages. In first stage, we do not make distinction between production and service departments. We just list all the costs, the indirect costs, and then allocate them to all the 5 departments. In this case we have 5, but it depends on the situation. So if we have 5 departments, we just allocate the cost to each department on the principle that how much of the cost is traceable or in any way apportionable to that particular department. Now, it will be helpful if you think about these costs as either traceable cost or shared cost. So first you list all the indirect costs and then start thinking about each cost. Is it traceable? By traceable, what you mean that you can clearly see which department is causing how much of the cost. It is already given to you in the question or in that scenario. So in that case, you just use the same values because they are traceable. You will have some costs given as a total for all 5 together. So let's say, for example, rent cost, depreciation cost. So you got one big figure. Now that is a shared cost. You don't know how much of that has come from this department or this department or this. So there you have to think how I am going to distribute this cost along all 5. And as I mentioned here, you need to think of some fair basis. And the fair base is that the advantage, the benefit from that cost, how much of that was used by this department, how much of that benefit was derived by this department, and how much did it go there. So depending on that, in the same proportion in which the benefit was derived, you also apportion the total cost into its segments. So that is the first stage where you just distribute them along all 5 departments. So I have provided you with these steps, and if you follow them, you will be able to do any question which involves 2-stage absorption costing. So these green, that is the first stage, then the second stage, and then the product costing. So as I mentioned earlier, you read the question carefully and first try to identify indirect costs. So you list them. There may be 5 indirect costs, maybe 6, 7, 8. So you list all of them. Then think whether how many of them are traceable. So traceable ones are very easy because already you will be given how much is coming from each department. So you may have just 3 department costs, nothing here, or you may have all 5. So whatever cost you have got, if it is traceable, just allocate them as they are given in the question. Now, if some costs are shared costs, that is you have only one total cost, but you don't know how much should go here and how much should go there. So in that case, you think about that fair basis, that how I'm going to apportion. So think about some fair basis. For example, if it's maintenance costs, so the machinery requires maintenance. So the department that has got the machinery in the same proportion. So look at the value of the machinery. The more valuable the machinery is, more of the maintenance should go there. Similarly, if, for example, it's supervisor, so what is supervisor's role? What he does? He supervises workers. So look at how many workers or how many labor hours of that work are being used in each department. So accordingly you decide that how I'm going to apportion that particular cost. So I said that if there is a shared cost, then you need to apportion that cost among all the cost centers or all the departments. Now, what basis you should use? So in order to help you, I have reproduced a table in Pauline Wheatman's management accounting textbook where the common methods used to apportion this indirect cost, those are given. So for example, rent of buildings, of floor area of each cost center. For lighting, again floor area. However, if volume is known, I think that is a better basis of apportioning a shared cost. Similarly, these other indirect costs are given and their relevant basis is also given against each cost. So you have to, like this, if you have any cost, you just think what will be the more logical basis of apportioning that cost. When all indirect costs are allocated and apportioned, you complete first stage. So that is the first stage where you just allocate them along all 5 departments. The second stage, you apportion the total indirect cost of each service department to the production department. Now, in the first stage, you will have costs gone here, 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 and also gone some of the costs to these 2 service departments. Now, in second stage, you want to eliminate the costs from service departments and you transfer them to the production departments. Now, again, you have to think of some fairness basis, that this department, what is its relationship with these departments. So the more these departments are using this service, the more should go there. Similarly, about this department, what is its relationship with these departments? The more these departments are using this department, more of this total cost should go to that particular department. So that is the fairness basis, and you think about that. After all service departments, total indirect costs are transferred to production departments. You work out total indirect costs for the production department. So you have now transferred these costs here, and you just total the costs for manufacturing, total the costs for assembly, and you total the cost for coating. So you will have overheads allocated, total allocated to the departments. So you just total them. Now is the time to work out unit product cost by working out overhead absorption rate. So in order to work out overhead absorption rate, you need to choose between total planned labor hours and machine hours. So normally you use either labor hours or machine hours depending on nature of the production department. So if it is labor intensive, you use labor hours. If it is machine hours intensive, you use machine hours. So whichever is higher, you use that as the basis. Now to work out job order cost, you work out prime cost. So after you have worked out your overhead absorption rate, you are ready to work out your product cost. So what you do there, you work out your direct material and direct labor cost, which you also call prime cost, and you add the overheads allocated to one unit by using the overhead absorption rate that you have worked out in step 7. So these steps we will use in the work solution, and I hope that the method will become much clearer. Okay, so we have this question, Blue Limited, where we are going to use two-stage allocation of absorption costing to work out the product cost. So what information we have got here? 3 production departments. So department 1, department 2, department 3, these are production departments. And 1 service department. So stores is the service department here. So in this question we have 1 service department. At times we can have more than 1. Now we have been given this information. Direct labor in £1,000 are given. Now direct labor is not an indirect cost. So we may need this in order to work out our labor hours, if not directly given. Indirect labor is given. Now this is one of the indirect costs, so that will go in our, when we say identify all indirect costs when you are apportioning them. So now you can instantly see that it is traceable one. So you already know that how much of the total belongs to each department. So that is already allocated. Now some extra information has been given. The production requisition notes in thousands. You see that there are 6,000 notes coming from department 1, 2,000 from department 2, 1,000 from department 3. So these 3 departments are using the stores and how many requisition notes they are sending to the store. So that is information given to you. Indirect materials cost given. Now again that is already allocated, so that's traceable. You use the same figures. So area occupied is given in square meter, and that will help you in deciding how much of some of the costs which can be apportioned on the basis of area. So you can use these as the basis of apportioning a shared cost which you can relate with area. Use of external maintenance, so in percentage is given. So department 1 is using external maintenance 20%, 70% is used by department 2, and 10% is used by department 3. So if there is any maintenance cost, you can apportion it in the same proportion. So 20% of that should go to department 1, 70% should go to department 2, and 10% should go to department 3. Now we have following information also available to us. Now I was saying that you can apportion maintenance costs if given. So here it is. The total external maintenance cost will be £25,000. So that we will use later on in our analysis table, and we will apportion it in the same proportion. Components are held in stores until they are needed by the production department, who obtains such a presentation of an authorized requisition note to the store staff. So now we know that what is this department doing, what its role vis-a-vis the 3 production department. So the 3 production department issue these requisition notes to the stores, and then the material is provided to the 3 departments. So the more notes, more of the store's total cost should be given to that department. All direct labor is paid £5 per hour. So from this information we can work out how many total labor hours are used by department 1, because we can see that 480,000 is the total direct labor cost and £5 per hour they are paid. 480,000 divided by £5 will yield us the number of direct labor hours for department 1, similarly for department 2 and department 3. That is in case the labor hours are not directly given. So in this question labor hours are not given, so we have to work them out. Department 3 has machine intensive production with 80,000 machine hours. So we have been told that department 3 is machine intensive. So we have been given that it is using 80,000 machine hours. So the labor hours, if we work out, will be less than 80,000 machine hours. That's why it has been called machine intensive production department. Other costs for the coming year comprise, so some other costs: heat and lighting utilities 160,000, so that is another indirect cost. Rent 300,000, another, and property insurance 10,000. So these 3, this cost and indirect labor and indirect material, so these are our indirect costs which we need to include in our analysis table and then allocate them to the 4 departments in the first stage, and then in the second stage the store's total cost should be allocated to the 3 departments, and finally to the product. So that's what we have been asked to do in this. We have been given some additional information in this question, and for this scenario we have to work out the product cost or the manufacturing cost of this job, and just comment that what would you use a production cost for. So if we work out production cost, what is the purpose of working out? So now let us look at the solution of this question. You see, in the first step I have brought all the data that is given in the question at one place. So the data table provides all the information that is available, which is helpful and useful. So for all the 4 departments, 3 production department and 1 service department, so 4 columns are made, and then a total column is also made. So we will use the same format in step 2. So we have these columns, as many columns as many departments we have got, and 1 extra column for total at the end. So we see that in this we have first identified all indirect costs. So there are 6 indirect costs: indirect labor cost, indirect material cost, internal maintenance cost, heat and light, rent, and property insurance. So these 6 indirect costs, overheads, were identified, and then also we have to find the basis of allocating them to these 4 departments. Now indirect labor and indirect materials, they were already assigned, so we knew that how much is coming from each department. So we just use the information that was already given. Internal maintenance costs, however, we were only given £25,000 one shared cost. So we have to find a way of apportioning this cost among these three departments. Now, since maintenance is of machinery which is only available in these three departments, so therefore this cost is going to be apportioned among these three departments, and as there is no machinery in stores, therefore nothing will go there. So it all depends on use of maintenance, what percentage we have got. So if you look here, use of maintenance in percentage is 20% by department 1, 70% by department 2, and 10% by department 3. So we will use exactly the same. So 20% times 25,000 will go to department 1, and similarly we use the remaining percentages and multiply by 25,000, and we get 17,500 and 2,500. Now heat and light, so we were given 160,000. Now we are going to distribute it among the four departments on the basis of area occupied, that is in square meter. So that information is given, area occupied in square meters. So for each department we have got the area in square meter given. So what we should do, we should total the area and then find the proportion. So 30,000 divided by total of all this area times the shared cost, and we will determine how much should come here. Similarly for this other one and this one and this one. So 160,000 has been distributed among these four departments. So what we have done, we total the area, and that is 90,000. So 30,000 divided by 90,000, and we then multiply it by the total shared expense heat and light, which is 160,000, and that is 53,333. So that's rounded. If it's decimal, you just round it. And similarly we do it for other one. For example, this one, department 3, so we look at the area occupied 20,000 divided by total 90,000 and multiplied by the expense, shared expense 160,000, and that is 35,556. Also for stores, the area is 10,000, so 10,000 divided by 90,000 and that fraction multiplied by the shared cost of 160,000. So this is 17,778. Now we do same thing for rent using area. So the total is 300,000. So using again the same proportions, we multiply that by 300,000. This cost is then apportioned among these four departments. Then property insurance, again area. So for these three we can use area because area is a proxy for fairness rule. That is, more the area, more heat will be used, more the area, more rent will be used, more area, property insurance will be used. Here we are using area for heat and light, but if we knew volume, perhaps that would have been a better measure. But since we don't have volume, so we are using area instead of volume. So once we have done that, all 7 indirect costs have been spread along 4 departments using these bases. Now we just total them. So we have total, so we get each departmental total. And once we have done that, our second stage begins. So for stores, we get 332 and 222. So we need to get rid of this and transfer it to these 3 production departments. If we have got 2 service departments, then each one has to be transferred. But in this case, we have got only 1 service department, so only this needs to be transferred here. Now we have to think on what basis we can apportion this cost among these 3 production departments. So we have to check what sort of service it is providing, and the question tells us, if we reread the original question, that it is providing material to the production department and through requisition notes. So if more requisition notes are issued by department 1, more of this cost should go there. So production requisition notes. So total is 9,000, and 6,000 of 9,000 is coming from department 1. So 6,000 divided by 9,000 multiplied by this 33222, and that is 221481. Similarly, department 2, so we look at how many requisition notes? 2,000. 2,000 divided by 9,000 times 332222, and that comes out to be 73,827. And similarly, we do the same for department 3, and that comes out to be 36,914. And we see that we have completely transferred it to these 3 departments. So therefore we show minus same figure, because it is cancelled, it is no more here. So we add these 2 and we get the total departmental figure for department 1. Then we add this to this and add this to department 3 subtotal. So these are the 3 overhead figures, the indirect cost figures that we have now found out for the 3 production department. So second stage is also complete. Now we are ready to work out the overhead absorption rate. Now we have got the overhead figures for the 3 production departments. We have to decide whether we need to divide it by total number of machine hours or by total number of labor hours. So the rule is that whichever is higher, we will use that. So in this case, we have got the direct labor hours because we are not given machine hours. So the assumption is that these 2 are labor intensive, therefore we will use labor hours. In this case, we have been given both machine hours and labor hours, and we can clearly see that machine hours are double the labor hours, so this is machine intensive. Therefore we will use machine hours. So in this case, this is the total overhead for department 1, and these are the total direct labor hours. So this divided by direct labor hours gives us 8.99 pound per labor hour. That is the overhead absorption rate. Similarly for department 2, this total figure divided by total number of direct labor hours gives us 10.12, and in this case machine hours. So this figure divided by 80,000 gives us 5.30 per machine hour. So we have worked out the overhead absorption rates for the 3 departments. Now we are in a position to work out production cost. And production cost is direct material plus direct labor plus the production overheads that we just worked out using the overhead absorption rate. So direct labor hour, we know, are 10 labor hours for department 1, 4 direct labor hours for department 2, and 2 direct labor hours for department 3. Rate per hour we know is 5 pound. So if we just multiply 5 pound by the number of hours required, we work out the direct labor cost for in department 1 is 50, 20 in department 2, and 10 pound in department 3, altogether 80 pound. Direct material, these are given in the question, so we just add them for the 3 departments, and it is 146.00. Now, how much of the production overhead? So for that we use the overhead absorption rate that we have just found in our this previous step. So these three are the overhead absorption rates. We use them. Since these two are labor hour based, so we multiply the labor hours 10 and 4, and we get 89.91 and 40.50, and this one is machine hour, so 4 times 5.30. So these three figures we add and it is 151.60. So that is the overhead which has been allocated to the product using the overhead absorption rates. Add these three and we get production cost of 377.60. Now this production cost is used in order to value the closing inventory. This production cost is also used to price the product. So you can add some profit margin and you can arrive at your final price of the product or price of the job offer that you would like to quote.